Right. So this is about the Gosu programming language because in the last sessions we have discussed even about the Guidewire developer role, right? So what Guidewire developer do, followed by that we discussed about the configuration part, we discussed about the integration part, API integrations, all that. But when it comes to the coding part is concerned, because especially from the development perspective, we have to write a code. We need to develop the code for the projects, whatever the integrations we are doing, whatever the migrations we are planning. If there is any changes in the requirements are concerned, for that we need to write down the business logic. To write the business logic, there must be some programming language which we use it, especially from the Guidewire perspective in property and casualty insurance. We use a programming language called Gosu. You can see it here. This is a Gosu programming language editor. You can see because when we are writing down the code for Gosu, this is an editor which normally we use it. But the advantage is this, especially Gosu, because let me give you a comparison from Gosu to Java, because Gosu programming language is built on Java. Because normally most of the programming languages, either they will be built on C, C++ or something or Java only, right? So normally any programming languages. That's how, because these are all mother of programming language, C, C++, Java, right? So on that, whatever the programming language we build, normally on these only we build. Advantage of Gosu is Gosu programming language built on Java, normally. But the major difference you see from Java to Gosu is in Java, you need to write down the code as in when you can see here, the code which I am showing you over here like that. Next, it's not only about the code. If you want to deploy it, right? So if you want to execute that, right? So there are different commands which normally we use. But whereas when it comes to Gosu, it's more or less like a Python programming. So wherein you can write down the code over here, right? So whatever the required code you are going to write or something like, right? So whatever the code you want to write, right? So whatever the basic code that are something required for us to write over here, you can write on the code here, right? So for example, print hello world, right? So this is a code which normally we have taken. If you want to run the code and all, here you can see there is where you can see the running of the code, where you can get in, right? So here you can see hello world, right? So we can write down the code according to the requirement, what we want to make some changes or in context to the configuration or integration. If you want to make the changes, we can do that. This is where that is something which is easy in Gosu programming, more or less like a Python, because you can write down the code here, you can run the code here, you can deploy it. Everything can be done over in the same editor what I am showing you. Because for this, make sure you need to download the Gosu programming language, because this is not something we do, because we have an option. We have options like using IDEs, NetBeans, or in IntelliJ editor, right? So we have different IDEs where you can write down the code. But fundamentally, when we are in the Guideware development, it's always important for us to write the code on our own, right? So how we are implementing the business logic is something required. So that if we have Java knowledge, then it is fine. But I don't say that everybody have programming knowledge. So learning the basics of programming from the Java context is always preferable. Of course, I have already given basics of Java programming in last to you, right? So beginning of it. So after that, so if you want to write any kind of code or something like wherein we can write down the code this way, right? So simply you can write down the code, print hello world is the code is just which I have written. Because if it is print classes, then it is different, okay? Because print classes are different. So that this is how generally the code we can write. So whatever the required code is needed, something like, right? So wherein we can select down the code, whatever is needed or something of that sort. And if you want to create any kind of execution here, you can directly see. You can just simply run me here. So automatically you can get the result here like this, hello world. This is something, being a Guideware developer, you will be learning now. Gosu programming language, because fundamental skill set of learning programming and fundamental skill set of understanding what exactly the code is already there. Sometimes code is existed, you have to make changes in the code. Depends on the requirement. Let's say, for example, there is a functionality for policy creation. So when you are creating a policy, there are some changes that are required for you to make. Some additional policy fields you need to add, or you need to update, edit something, or delete something kind of stuff. You have to make some changes, subsequent changes in the back of the code. That code will be in the back of it. That's how it is. So you have to open the code, make subsequent changes in that. That is one thing which, being a Guidewire developer, we have to do. Of course, even for testing people also, some basic knowledge is required. That is one thing. Second, if you want to write a code for a new business logic, can also be written here. So these are the two advantages we see. For this reason, this Gosu programming we are using. That's what from tomorrow onwards we are going to discuss about what are the different, because Gosu has some standard packages, classes, subjects, in instances, etc., wherein you require to learn first, right? So before you are going to write the programming, it's always important for you to know about the basics of our Gosu programming, which we are going to discuss from tomorrow. Okay, right.